Hey guys, welcome to a new recipe video. In this one I'm going to show you how to make this vegan lentil loaf. It is a delicious recipe for the holiday season as it is super easy to make. But before we're starting, I want to give you the opportunity to grab a copy of my new e-cookbook, The Green Bowl. All whole food plant-based vegan recipes, all made from scratch, not complicated. Perfect if you're new to veganism, but also if you're a long-time vegan and you're sort of a bit in a cooking rut. There are guides in there like how to cook oil-free and so on and so forth. So have a look, let me know what you think, and now back to the recipe. I am linking down the exact recipe in both Dutch and English down below, but you're going to need some sweet potatoes, some carrots, celery, fresh onion and garlic. And yeah, I'm starting off with the onion and garlic. I'm heating it in a medium pan over medium heat. I'm using a non-stick pan. You can use a regular pan if you don't have a non-stick pan, or if you would like to cook with oil, that's totally fine. I'm adding water to the veggies so they won't stick to the pan if the pan gets too hot. So I'm adding in the garlic, the onion, the celery, the carrots and the sweet potato, and I'm gonna let it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. So just make sure that your veggies don't stick to the pan by adding some water or oil, and also stir occasionally. Yeah, just keep an eye on it, I would say. Then in the last few minutes, I am adding in the dried herbs and spices that I'm using. Again, you can find the exact measurements in the recipe that I will link down below. But there are quite a few herbs and spices that I'm using, such as thyme, rosemary, oregano, ginger, and ground black pepper. So again, stir to combine and let it sit for another few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to make a flax egg by combining flax seeds or ground flax seeds with water, and I'm gonna let it sit for a few minutes, and this will bind the loaf. Now, it's better to use ground flax seeds. That's just my advice. And while that is binding and while the veggies are simmering, I'm going to make the glaze for the loaf. Now, I'm actually making sort of a ketchup. And I'm doing that by combining pure tomato puree with a sweetener. I'm using date syrup, and I'm combining that with a mild mustard and with apple cider vinegar. So this will create a ketchup-like taste that goes really well with the lentil loaf. And for this recipe, I think it's important to not use ketchup, but use real 100% pure tomato puree or tomato paste. As of here, it's actually pretty straightforward. So I'm going to add the cooked lentils to a food processor along with the veggies from the pan. So the carrots, the sweet potato, the celery, the onion, the garlic, and the herbs and spices. And to that, I'm also adding in tamari. You could use soy sauce, but I'm keeping it gluten-free today. I'm also adding in tomato puree, again, not ketchup and not the ketchup that we just made, that's for later on. Just pure tomato puree, and some nutritional yeast as well for some flavor, and some fresh parsley. And finally, I'm adding in the rolled oats and the flax egg that has been sitting aside, and the flax egg will bind the loaf. Once all ingredients are in the food processor, I'm going to blend everything up. Well, I'm going to sort of puree it and pulse it a few times. I don't want it to become too mushy and too much of a mash or a puree. I would like to keep some texture. So once that is done, I'm covering a baking loaf pan with parchment paper, and I'm going to place the mixture in the loaf pan. Now, I'm using parchment paper because I'm not using oil. You are free to use oil, of course. This is just easier as well, personally, I think. So yeah, I'm just placing the mixture into the loaf. I'm using a spatula to fill the loaf pan. It's easier to distribute everywhere, and it's also easier to make it flat at the top. And a trick also to sort of fill the corners is to drop your loaf pan a few times on the table. Once the loaf pan is filled with a mixture, I'm going to add a layer of the ketchup glaze that we made before. Now, you could use the entire batch that we made, or you can keep half and use it for later on. So what I like to do is I like to use half and then serve the lentil loaf with the leftover ketchup glaze. After about 30 to 40 minutes, you will have the perfect lentil loaf, packed with flavor, a little bit crispy on the outside and a little bit moist on the inside. That's personally how I like my lentil loaf. As you can tell, I'm serving it with the leftover ketchup glaze that we made before, but you don't have to. You can just serve it aside and let your guests, for example, decide how they would like to eat their lentil loaf. So this is my absolute favorite loaf because it's easy to make ahead. It's very quick to make. You don't need a lot of complicated ingredients. It's comforting, it's hearty. A lot of people, like a group of mixed eaters, will love this lentil loaf. It's just the perfect holiday recipe. If you're going to make this holiday recipe, I would love to know. Just leave a comment down below, connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. You can find me everywhere as The Green Creator. I would love to see your creations, especially during the holiday season, of course. Thank you so much for watching. Stay well, and until the next upload. Bye-bye.